Hollywood awoke to heartbreak as the world learned of the passing of legendary actress Diane Keaton, who died at the age of 79. Tributes poured in from every corner of the entertainment industry, mourning a woman whose career redefined individuality, grace, and creative courage. Keaton's death marks not just the loss of a beloved actress, but the end of an era, a time when she embodied the rare balance between vulnerability and brilliance that made audiences fall in love with her for decades. Yet, only 2 days after her passing, a revelation from Keanu Reeves sent the media into a frenzy. The actor, known for his quiet demeanor and guarded personal life, made a rare public appearance where his emotional words about Keaton caught everyone by surprise. For years, Reeves had deflected questions about their bond, offering only brief, respectful comments. But this time, he spoke with raw honesty and affection, hinting at a story far deeper than anyone had ever known. His heartfelt confession immediately raised questions. What truly connected Keanu Reeves and Diane Keaton beyond their on-screen chemistry? Why did she remain silent about their closeness while he chose to open up only after her death? The sudden unveiling of this hidden connection has stirred widespread curiosity and emotion, reshaping how fans remember both stars. Diane Keaton's passing was already a somber moment for Hollywood, but Keanu's revelation turned it into something profoundly human, a reflection on love, loss, and the secrets that linger behind fame. Together, their intertwined stories remind the world that even in the dazzling realm of Hollywood, the most powerful tales are often the ones that remain untold until the very end. One of the few people fortunate enough to work closely with Diane Keaton described the experience as unforgettable, a privilege marked by warmth, humility, and creative brilliance. That sentiment resonated throughout Hollywood, echoing the deep respect and admiration Keaton inspired across generations of filmmakers and co-stars. But beyond the accolades and tributes, a more intimate story began to unfold, one that revealed emotional ties few ever knew existed. Just days before her passing, Keanu Reeves made 2 quiet, unannounced visits to Diane's Pacific Palisades home. There were no photographers, no press releases, no entourage, only Keanu arriving alone. According to Diane's inner circle, her adopted daughter Dexter and her longtime personal assistant, these meetings were profoundly private, filled with an unspoken tenderness that hinted at something far deeper than friendship. By the middle of 2025, Diane's health had begun to fail noticeably. Once full of energy and wit, she grew frail and withdrawn, her movements slow, her laughter softer. She stopped appearing in public, canceled all professional engagements, and declined interviews. Projects she once championed were quietly shelved, leaving a void her collaborators could only fill with memories. Those who loved her said she faced her final months with the same grace that defined her career, quietly, without spectacle, surrounded by only a few trusted souls. And among them, perhaps most unexpectedly, stood Keanu Reeves, a man whose presence in her final days added a new, deeply human dimension to a legacy already rich with emotion, mystery, and timeless artistry. According to Diane Keaton's longtime assistant, Keanu Reeves' first visit took place in mid-July when he arrived quietly at her Pacific Palisades residence. The two spent nearly 3 uninterrupted hours together in her living room, away from cameras, phones, or any outside interference. Their conversation, described as calm yet deeply emotional, unfolded in absolute privacy. The second visit came in early September, only weeks before Diane's condition worsened. After that, she saw no one except her immediate family and medical team. No photographs, recordings, or written accounts exist from those meetings, a rare occurrence in today's hyper-documented world. Yet, every detail was carefully verified by the few people who were in the home during those moments, including her assistant and household staff. Their testimonies painted a portrait of genuine affection, mutual respect, and something quietly profound that transcended ordinary friendship. Diane's daughter, Dexter Keaton, later confirmed the emotional weight of Keanu's presence. "He was one of the very few people my mother personally asked to see," she said, her words underscoring a bond both powerful and private. Although the nature of their relationship was never publicly defined, neither romance nor mere camaraderie, Diane's actions in her final months spoke volumes. She made no attempt to hide Keanu's importance in her life. In fact, she explicitly instructed everyone in her home to protect their privacy during his visits, ensuring that the moments they shared would remain untouched by the world's gaze. Those visits, now shrouded in quiet reverence, have become emblematic of Diane Keaton's legacy. A woman who lived and loved on her own terms, and a man who chose silence over spectacle until the very end. Just 4 days before her passing, a quiet yet powerful gesture emerged from Diane Keaton's Pacific Palisades home. Several handwritten letters were mailed to a select few individuals, each envelope carrying her familiar, delicate handwriting. Among them was one addressed to Keanu Reeves, sent directly to his representative office in Los Angeles. Her relatives later confirmed that these letters were deeply personal, written entirely by Diane herself without any dictation or help. Each word was deliberate, intimate, and final, a closing chapter in her own hand. Those closest to her revealed that Diane remained fully conscious and lucid until the evening before her death. She spent her last night surrounded by her daughter and a few loved ones, conversing softly, her voice weak but clear. By dawn, her condition deteriorated rapidly. She was rushed to the hospital after struggling to breathe and, despite medical efforts, passed away in the early hours of October 11, 2025 due to complications from pneumonia. There were no public statements, no grand goodbyes. Diane had chosen silence, a final act of control over a life that had always been lived on her own terms. Yet, one hauntingly beautiful sentence remained with those she left behind: "I've met the people I needed to meet." Simple yet profound, these words became her parting reflection. A message of closure, peace, and gratitude. When placed alongside Keanu Reeves' quiet visits and the letter she sent him just days before her death, the meaning deepens. It suggests that, in her final moments, Diane Keaton found solace in connection, not through fame or legacy, but through the quiet acknowledgement of a bond that had shaped her heart until the very end. Only hours after uttering her final reflective words, the inevitable came. On the morning of October 11, 2025, Diane Keaton quietly took her last breath at a private hospital in Los Angeles. The official cause of death was confirmed as pneumonia, the final outcome of a long period of physical decline that had slowly robbed her of strength and mobility. Those who had been by her side said the end came peacefully, without pain or fear. Just the same calm dignity that had defined her throughout her life. True to her fiercely private nature, there were no public goodbyes, no carefully drafted statements prepared in advance. The entire sequence, from her sudden hospitalization to her final moments, unfolded in less than 10 hours, shielded from the public eye. Even in her passing, Diane chose silence over spectacle. Her family, respecting her final wishes, withheld the announcement for several days. Only on October 15th did they confirm her death through an understated family statement. Until then, the world remained unaware, while her loved ones observed a period of quiet mourning. Once the news broke, tributes flooded in from around the globe. Fellow actors, directors, and lifelong admirers filled social media with photographs, anecdotes, and emotional recollections, celebrating not just the icon, but the woman who had left an indelible mark on everyone she met. Even in death, Diane Keaton remained consistent. Private, intentional, and authentic. The quiet delay in revealing her passing was not secrecy, but choice. It reflected the same self-possession that guided her life and artistry. To move through the world gently, meaningfully, and entirely on her own terms. Those who had been closest to Diane Keaton began noticing unmistakable signs of fatigue and frailty as early as mid-2025. The once vibrant actress, known for her sharp humor and boundless energy, had grown noticeably quieter. She began stepping back from commitments that once filled her days. Declining invitations to attend community gatherings, turning down a proposed short film reunion, and gradually disengaging from the charitable foundation she had passionately built years earlier. When colleagues or collaborators reached out with new ideas or opportunities, her reply was always the same: a gentle but final pause to rest. Behind that simple phrase, however, was a truth known only to a small inner circle: her family and her private medical team. They alone were aware of the true extent of her health struggles, which she had chosen not to make public. Friends described her as determined to protect her dignity and autonomy, even as her strength faded. A subtle but telling shift occurred in March 2025, when Diane quietly listed her beloved Pacific Palisades bungalow for sale, the very home she had lived in for years and often described as the last place I needed. The decision stunned even those closest to her. There was no press release, no real estate announcement, no interview to explain the move. To some of her confidentes, it felt symbolic, a quiet act of preparation, a way of simplifying and closing chapters before she slipped fully into solitude. Looking back, many now see that moment as one of Diane Keaton's earliest signals that she was beginning to let go, gracefully, deliberately, and entirely on her own terms. Diane Keaton's final public appearance took place at a small fundraiser in Malibu for an animal rescue organization, an event that, at the time, seemed ordinary but now stands as a quiet farewell. Photographs from that day revealed a noticeably frail Diane, her trademark exuberance softened into gentleness. She had cut her hair short, her once bold fashion replaced by a simple outfit that covered her neck and arms. It was a striking contrast to the confident, playful style that had long defined her public persona. After that afternoon, she vanished from the spotlight entirely. According to her caregiver, Diane spent the last 3 weeks of her life in near complete seclusion. She disconnected from social media, declined calls except from her 2 children and a handful of close relatives, and instructed her staff not to admit any further visitors. Her days were simple, deliberate, and inward. She filled notebooks with handwritten letters and short daily diary entries, reflecting quietly on moments from her life. Each word she wrote seemed to serve as both memory and farewell, her own private script for closure. In retrospect, one line from a past interview feels eerily prophetic. Diane had once said, "If I ever disappear from Hollywood, it may be because I am living more authentically than ever." Those words, once taken as a whimsical remark from an eccentric artist, now resonate as a haunting truth. In her final months, Diane Keaton did exactly that, retreated not out of sadness, but out of peace, choosing authenticity, silence, and the company of only those who mattered most. Diane Keaton's farewell was as understated and graceful as the woman herself. Every detail of her funeral had been carefully prearranged, a final act of control from someone who valued privacy above all else. She left explicit instructions: no public ceremony, no cameras, and no spectacle. There would be no media presence at her resting place, no elaborate memorials, and no floral tributes. Instead, she requested that anyone wishing to honor her memory make donations to 2 causes close to her heart: a Los Angeles food bank and a dog rescue shelter in the Southern California desert. A lifelong friend later confirmed that Diane's final wish was simple, low-key, unobtrusive, and not to bother anyone. It was a sentiment perfectly aligned with how she had lived, quietly, authentically, and always on her own terms. Her death came only days after mailing her final letters, one of which reached Keanu Reeves. When news of her passing spread, Keanu immediately withdrew from the public eye, declining interviews and appearances. For several days, he vanished entirely until speculation around his silence grew too loud to ignore. Then, on October 13, 2025, just 2 days after Diane's death, Keanu appeared at the Los Angeles premiere of his new film. The atmosphere was electric yet subdued. Every reporter wanted one thing: a statement. When the inevitable question came about Diane, Keanu paused for several seconds, visibly collecting himself. His response was brief yet profoundly telling. "She was a generous artist, a special and unique person. She was very good to me." In that restrained acknowledgement, the world finally glimpsed what had long remained unspoken: an emotional truth carried quietly between 2 artists bound by something deeper than the public ever knew. It was Keanu's first and only tribute, measured but undeniably heartfelt, breaking 2 decades of silence with a single, unforgettable sentence. The statement, though brief, struck an immediate and powerful chord across the media and among fans. It was not what Keanu Reeves said, but how he said it: calm, sincere, and free of the polished phrasing typical of Hollywood. Those who had followed his career noticed instantly that he had never spoken about any co-star in such deeply personal terms. His words were simple, but they carried the weight of emotion that comes only from truth. Later that same evening, Keanu appeared on a pre-scheduled late-night talk show to promote his new film. What was expected to be a routine interview quickly transformed into a quiet reflection on Diane Keaton. When asked about their collaboration years earlier, Keanu's tone softened. He recalled a memorable scene they filmed together in Paris, one that also featured Jack Nicholson, describing it as smart, gentle, and very real. His recollection went beyond nostalgia. It felt like a glimpse into a memory he still carried with affection and reverence. Observers noted that throughout the conversation, Keanu spoke about Diane in the present and present perfect tense, as though she were still part of his world. He mentioned no other relationships, no other co-stars, and avoided the usual anecdotes of fame. Every word he offered seemed deliberate, chosen from a place of quiet respect. Diane was the one who made order out of chaos, he said softly, his voice steady but reflective. In that sentence, Keanu revealed not just admiration, but a profound sense of gratitude, a testament to a connection that had endured far beyond the screen, and perhaps far beyond time itself. After the show, he immediately left backstage, skipping the after-party and making no further comments in the days that followed. A representative confirmed that Keanu had no intention of speaking at memorial events or issuing additional statements about Diane. His decision to speak on these 2 occasions was entirely his own, uninfluenced by his image management team or producers. This marked the first time in 20 years, since their co-starring role, that Keanu had openly acknowledged his connection to Diane. Previously, when asked about her, his answers were typically brief, often filled with general praise for her acting talent or work ethic. When pressed about any relationship beyond work, Keanu neither denied nor confirmed, but concluded one interview with a statement that reverberated through the media for days: "She has always been an irreplaceable part of my journey." No further specifics were offered. However, for those who had followed Keanu's career for years, this was a rare moment of personal vulnerability, revealing his feelings for a woman he had shared the screen with. The media was subsequently denied further access to Keanu, and promotional activities for his film were handled by other actors and producers. For nearly 2 weeks after his statement, he did not appear at any other events, maintaining a deliberate silence. Unlike previous silences, this one came after he had already said enough. A colleague of Diane's remarked that she always kept her distance from everything, but she did not hide her true feelings. And Keanu, the colleague added, was someone she chose to keep in her life not because of fame but because of trust. Keanu, notably, refrains from using terms like friend or colleague when speaking of Diane. He simply calls her by name, using direct, specific, and unambiguous language. His recent responses transcend typical promotional events or memorial services. They are the culmination of a long silence, the first time their connection has been addressed without evasion. These were not rehearsed interview answers or formal tributes. They were Keanu's heartfelt acknowledgement of someone he was profoundly attached to, enough to rekindle a journey that began long ago. Their bond originated in front of the camera, in the early 2000s on the set of Something's Got to Give. In the film, Diane portrayed an accomplished, elderly playwright, while Keanu played a younger doctor. Their on-screen chemistry was immediately praised, but it was their off-screen interactions that proved truly remarkable. A crew member confirmed, "From the very first days, no one expected them to work together so well." Diane, known for preferring to read scripts alone, spent the majority of her time on this project with Keanu, exchanging lines, analyzing character psychology, and collaboratively shaping each scene. Keanu, while respecting his co-star's process, was always available whenever Diane needed a reading partner. Both consistently arrived on set earlier than their call times and departed later than the rest of the cast and crew. The film's director, Nancy Meyers, recalled Diane's suggestion to extend some of her scenes with Keanu after seeing the initial cut. According to Meyers, Diane explained, "Being with him, I felt like I didn't have to try too hard." This effortless dynamic endured throughout production and into the film's official release, with many of their unplanned interactions becoming memorable highlights. Following Something's Got to Give, Diane and Keanu did not reunite for any other projects. However, they did appear together on specific occasions. The 2020 Oscars provided a rare instance where they shared the stage to present an award. They introduced the original screenplay category, engaging in a brief, comfortable conversation before announcing the winner. Insiders revealed that the two had sat together in the waiting room, chatting for over half an hour before the broadcast, with those present confirming their relaxed and informal demeanor with each other. Diane rarely mentioned Keanu in interviews, but when asked about her favorite co-stars, she consistently named only two, and Keanu was always on that list. Her concise answer, "He makes things easy." On another occasion, Keanu, when asked which woman had left a deep impression on his work, mentioned Diane, stating, "Diane has a very unique way of looking at things unlike anyone I have ever worked with." Behind the scenes documents from Something's Got to Give reveal that most of Diane and Keanu's scenes were completed quickly, with minimal retakes. Their acting compatibility was so exceptional that the director rarely needed to make adjustments. A rare occurrence in a film featuring numerous acclaimed stars. Outside of their professional collaborations, they were not observed together at personal events, nor were any images circulated in the media. Nevertheless, according to a close friend of Diane's, she frequently mentioned Keanu as the type of person who doesn't belong here, but makes her feel safe. This sentiment was reiterated in a short personal interview on a podcast in 2018, where Diane spoke of individuals who had touched her life without delving into specifics. Keanu, in his many post-film interviews concerning Diane, consistently kept his answers to a minimum. Yet, the deliberate way he repeated Diane's name and avoided using alternative pronouns conveyed a special respect. Among his many co-stars, Diane was the only one he consistently referred to by her full name during media interviews. Their connection, though born on a film set, grew into something far deeper and far more enduring than a professional partnership. What began as collaboration gradually evolved into a quiet, mutual understanding, one that needed no audience and no public affirmation. After the cameras stopped rolling, Diane Keaton and Keanu Reeves remained in touch, not through the glitz of Hollywood galas or red carpet appearances, but through private exchanges, phone calls, and rare visits that only those closest to them knew of. It was a relationship defined not by proximity, but by intentional distance. A respectful space that both seemed to cherish. For them, absence did not weaken the bond, it strengthened it. Their rare interactions carried more meaning than constant visibility ever could, and as Diane entered the final chapters of her life, she continued to live within that chosen space, peaceful, deliberate, and utterly authentic, exactly as she had always intended. In her later years, Diane retreated almost completely from the entertainment industry. She gracefully stepped away from film sets, premieres, and talk shows, quietly declining projects after 2020. Having already secured her place in cinema history with timeless performances in Annie Hall, Something's Gotta Give, and The First Wives Club, she no longer sought validation from public applause. Instead, she dedicated herself to writing, photography, home design, and philanthropy, immersing herself in causes close to her heart. For Diane Keaton, stepping away wasn't an act of disappearance. It was an act of liberation. In a world that constantly demanded visibility, she found peace in intentional invisibility, and in that silence, she nurtured the most meaningful relationships of her life, including one that quietly endured, far from the noise of fame until the very end. She never married. Diane adopted both of her children during her middle age, and in numerous interviews, she made it clear that she did not wish to conform to traditional models. "I choose to live alone, not because I cannot love, but because I do not need anyone to manage my life," she once stated when questioned about marriage. During her active career, Diane was renowned for her meticulous nature and an uncompromising stance against social norms. She dressed distinctly, lived by her own schedule, and famously declined numerous lucrative advertising contracts, some worth millions of dollars. Those who worked with her confirmed that she always maintained complete control over all aspects of her work and public image. After stepping away from the spotlight, Diane dedicated her time to writing books, renovating old houses, and actively participating in campaigns supporting abandoned dogs. She personally designed and renovated many homes, subsequently selling them or donating them to community organizations. She once shared, "I love architecture more than acting at this stage." In her later years, Diane resided in a secluded house, rarely receiving visitors. She maintained contact with a small, intimate circle of close friends and family. Daily, she cultivated a habit of reading handwriting and tending to a small garden in her backyard. She adhered to a regular routine, avoided social media, and had not maintained any public accounts for many years. Diane Keaton's quiet withdrawal from public life did not come as a shock to those who truly knew her. In fact, she had methodically prepared for that transition long before her final months. By early 2025, she had completed a series of personal documents, handwritten notes, journals, and neatly organized folders that reflected her lifelong precision and independence. Among these were mailing lists for final correspondence, charitable donation instructions, and even a personal manual detailing how her affairs and creative archives should be handled after her death. It was a blueprint for closure, designed with the same care she brought to every role she ever played. Within those papers, one name stood out: Keanu Reeves. According to a close relative, Diane had specifically written that he was someone who should be notified privately in the event of her passing. The note offered no further explanation, no elaboration on why his inclusion mattered. But the subsequent course of events made it clear. Keanu's quiet visits, his presence during her final weeks, and his measured tribute afterward all spoke volumes about a bond that transcended the ordinary. Those close to Diane often described her as private, not secretive. There was no pretense or hidden agenda, only a deliberate, disciplined choice to protect her sense of self. For her, privacy was not withdrawal, it was freedom. She once said she shared only what mattered, and never what didn't. Even as questions arose, offers for interviews came in, and producers sought posthumous commentary, Diane held firm. A director who had worked closely with her captured her essence best. "She works as if she doesn't need anyone else to confirm that she's on the right path." That quiet conviction, to live and create without external validation, defined Diane Keaton's life, art, and final exit. It was the enduring mark of a woman who wrote her own narrative to the very last page. Everything Diane ever did was by her own deliberate choice, unguided by external control or the desire for public acclaim. Even with individuals who shared a part of her journey, she never allowed the relationship to be thrust into the spotlight. Diane's approach to matters was consistently clear, gentle, and decisive. Her sustained contact with Keanu over the years was a testament to this principle, not always frequent, but always at the right time, not publicly shared, but enough to endure. No labels, no definitions, no need for public understanding, because she didn't require the public to understand. Diane chose to live and to leave according to what she believed was simply enough. As for Keanu, his words are few, yet each time he speaks, it becomes clear that some connections transcend the need for elaborate explanation. Hollywood hides 1,000 stories behind every spotlight. This was one of them. Subscribe for more true stories that reveal the hearts behind the fame.